In the summer of 1942, the German war machine, seemingly unstoppable, drove deep into the heart of the Soviet Union. Their target was monumental, the city bearing Stalin's name, Stalingrad. This city was not just a symbol, it was a critical industrial hub on the Volga River. Capturing it would cripple Soviet war production and secure the German Army's flank as they pushed towards the oil fields of the Caucasus. As the German Sixth Army, under General Friedrich Paulus, advanced, the world held its breath. This wasn't just another battle, it was shaping up to be the colossal clash that could decide the fate of the entire war on the Eastern Front. The assault began with terrifying fury. On August 23, 1942, the Luftwaffe unleashed one of the most intense bombing campaigns the world had ever seen. Thousands of sorties were flown, dropping over 1,000 tons of bombs on the city, largely built of wood, was engulfed in a firestorm. The sky turned black with smoke, and the fires burned for days, reducing vast swaths of the city to a smoldering ruin. More than 40,000 civilians perished in the initial onslaught. For the German ground troops advancing across the steppe, the glowing inferno on the horizon was a signal. They crossed the Volga River, believing the city was already dead, and that their final push would be a simple matter of mopping up. They couldn't have been more wrong. What followed was the descent into one of history's most savage and desperate forms of combat, urban warfare. The Germans called it Rattenkrieg or Rat War. The rubble created by their own bombs became a fortress for the Soviet defenders. Every ruined building, every collapsed factory, every sewer tunnel became a battlefield. Soldiers from both sides fought room by room, floor by floor, in a brutal, intimate struggle for survival. Control of key locations like the massive Red October steel factory, the Barakati gun factory, and the Dzerzhinsky tractor factory became epic struggles in themselves. These industrial giants were turned into labyrinths of twisted metal and concrete, where snipers nested and machine gun posts guarded every corridor. One of the most legendary symbols of this defiance was a simple four-story apartment building. It became known as Pavlov's house, after Sergeant Yakov Pavlov, who, along with a tiny platoon of men, defended it against relentless German assaults for nearly 2 months. They fortified the building, surrounding it with minefields and positioning machine guns at the windows, turning it into an impregnable stronghold. Their stand was a microcosm of the entire battle, a testament to the raw tenacity of the Soviet 62nd Army, commanded by the indomitable General Vasily Chuk. His order was simple and brutal, not one step back. Another focal point of the fighting was Mamayev Kurgan, a massive hill overlooking the city. Control of this high ground meant control of Stalingrad. The hill changed hands multiple times, pulverized by so much artillery and gunfire that its very shape was altered. By mid-November, the Germans had paid a horrific price in blood for every inch of ground. Animated maps from the time show a grim reality. German forces controlled over 90% of the ruined city. They were on the very banks of the Volga. Victory seemed just one final push away. But as the Germans focused all their strength on crushing the last pockets of resistance in the city, the Soviet High Command, Stavka, was preparing a map. Unbeknownst to the overconfident Sixth Army, Marshal Georgy Zhukov had been quietly amassing enormous reserves on the flanks north and south of Stalingrad. On November 19, 1942, the Soviets unleashed Operation Uranus. Over 1 million Soviet soldiers, supported by thousands of tanks and artillery pieces, crashed down on the weakly held Romanian, Hungarian, and Italian armies that were guarding the German flanks. The attack was a two-pronged pincer movement of breathtaking scale and speed. The Axis flank armies collapsed almost immediately. Within just 4 days, the two Soviet pincers met at the town of Kalach, snapping the trap shut. The German Sixth Army, the conquerors of Stalingrad along with parts of the 4th Panzer Army, nearly 300,000 men, were suddenly and completely encircled. The hunter had become the hunted. Trapped in a vast pocket, or kessel, the Sixth Army now faced a new and even more formidable enemy, the Russian winter. Temperatures plummeted to minus 30 degrees Celsius and beyond. Hitler, refusing to accept the reality of the disaster, forbade Paulus from attempting a breakout. He promised the Sixth Army would be supplied by air. Reichsmarshal Hermann Göring, head of the Luftwaffe, boasted that his air force could deliver the 500 tons of supplies needed each day. It was a fantasy. The Luftwaffe was exhausted, and Soviet air superiority made the flights a suicide mission. The air bridge was a catastrophic failure, delivering only a tiny fraction of the required food, fuel, and ammunition. Inside the pocket, conditions became a living hell. Starvation set in. Rations were cut again and again until soldiers were surviving on thin soup and a few slices of bread made from sawdust. They ate their horses, then the dogs, then the rats. Frostbite and disease were rampant. Men froze to death in their foxholes, their uniforms offering little protection against the brutal cold. Ammunition ran low. In December, the Germans launched a desperate relief attempt, Operation Winter Storm. Led by Field Marshal von Manstein, his panzer divisions fought their way to within 30 miles of the pocket, but they were too weak to break through the Soviet lines. Paulus, bound by Hitler's orders and lacking the fuel for a breakout, could not move to meet them. The last glimmer of hope for the trapped army died in the snow. The end came slowly and agonizingly. As the new year of 1943 began, the Soviets launched their final offensive, Operation Ring, to liquidate the pocket. They systematically squeezed the starving and frozen German forces, splitting the Kessel into smaller and smaller pieces. The fighting was still fierce, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. On January 31st, Soviet troops stormed the makeshift headquarters of the 6th Army in the basement of a department store. There, they found General Paulus. Hitler had promoted him to field marshal just a day before, a cynical reminder that no German field marshal had ever surrendered. But Paulus chose to live. He surrendered, and over the next 2 days, the last remnants of his once mighty army laid down their arms. Of the nearly 300,000 men trapped in the Kessel, only around 91,000 survived to be taken into captivity. Of those, a mere 5,000 would ever see Germany again. The Battle of Stalingrad was over. The victory was a monumental strategic and psychological turning point in World War II. It shattered the myth of German invincibility and marked the beginning of the end for the Third Reich on the Eastern Front. The front line, which had reached the Volga, was now pushed back hundreds of kilometers. The Soviet Union, though having suffered unimaginable losses, had held on, and from this point forward, the Red Army would begin its long, relentless march towards Berlin. The ruins of Stalingrad stood as a testament to one of history's most decisive and brutal battles. Thank you for watching. If you found this history compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the pivotal moments of the past.